The devastating truth, Millionaire's son cries, MOM, after Maid saves him at 3 a.m. As the clock ticked relentlessly toward 3 a.m., a sharp silence hung over the sprawling mansion of the wealthy Harrington family. It was a typical night in their luxurious fortress until the piercing shriek shattered the stillness. There, in the depths of shadows, young Oliver Harrington collided with unimaginable terror. What had begun as a peaceful slumber morphed into a grotesque nightmare as he awoke to find the dark figure looming over him. His heart raced, pounding against his chest like a drum announcing doom. The chilling air was thick with dread. Trembling, Oliver's eyes darted around his room, desperately seeking salvation. He could almost feel the icy breath on his neck, whispering secrets he was not meant to hear. In that moment of sheer panic, the world outside seemed to blur. The opulence of his surroundings, the silk curtains dyed with hues of twilight, the plush carpet underfoot, now suddenly felt sinister, like a trap closing in. But just then, in the nick of time, his maid, Maria, burst through the door. With fierce determination and quick thinking, she surged forward, brandishing a heavy lamp like a weapon against the encroaching darkness. Just like that, light broke into the chaos. The sinister figure vanished, leaving nothing but a cold breeze and lingering terror in its wake. Oliver clung to his maid, the trembling echo of his voice barely a whisper as he called out, "Mom," the words spilling from his lips, raw with fear and desperation. She wrapped her arms around him, grounding him when everything felt so heavy, yet the knot in her stomach warned her that the danger wasn't truly over. But who was that figure? A shadow? A hallucination? The questions loomed larger than the threat itself. Could this have been part of something more sinister brewing inside the Harrington estate? Oliver had unexplainable dreams lately, whispers in the night that made his skin crawl. It was always the same, a woman with hollow eyes urging him to remember something lost. Just then, Maria's phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen, and the color drained from her face. What had she seen? "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As the eerie silence wrapped around them again, Oliver felt the tension rise. Would the truth about that figure ever come to light? Had they stumbled upon something dangerous hidden within the walls of their plush home? Maria's expression told him she was just as scared. Little did they know, the night was just beginning, and soon they'd uncover secrets that would shake their very foundation. Maria's hands trembled as she glanced at the message again, her heart pounding. It was from a number she didn't recognize, cryptically stating, "You can't protect him. The truth will surface." A chill ran down her spine. Who was sending this? Oliver's frightened eyes bored into her, searching for answers she did not have. "Maria, what does it say?" he whispered, his voice shaky, still clinging to her for dear life. Just a warning," she replied, trying to sound calm, though panic swirled in her gut like a storm. Outside, the wind howled, resonating with her racing thoughts. What did it mean? The hairs on the back of her neck stood up as she thought of the dark figure that had invaded their sanctuary. It felt like a witch's brew of fear and dread simmering just below the surface. She had always been aware of strange happenings around the estate, a shadow here, a whisper there, but had dismissed them as mere figments of imagination. But this? This was different. There was real danger lurking, it was palpable. As she scanned the room for any signs of a threat, something made her pause. A flicker of movement behind the curtains. Heart racing, she grabbed the lamp tightly and moved closer to the window, eyes narrowing. "Stay behind me, Oliver," she instructed, her voice firm despite the quiver. But Oliver was not merely cowering, he had taken a step forward, determination shining through his fear. "I want to see." Before she could stop him, he parted the curtain, only to reveal nothing. Just the empty darkness of their sprawling backyard, illuminated by the faint glow of the moon. But as they both stood there, breathless, they heard a low moan echoing from somewhere outside. "Did you hear that?" Oliver's wide eyes mirrored the horror of the moment. Maria nodded, her mind racing. "We need to check the house. Ensure everything is locked." She turned to face him, the gentle strength of a protective guardian flooding her demeanor. They could not afford to be caught off guard again. She led the way down the dimly lit corridor, each step echoed by a heartbeat of anxiety. Every door creaked ominously as they passed, and the haunting memories of the dark figure clung to the air like smoke. The mansion, once a bastion of wealth and comfort, felt like a labyrinth of secrets and shadows that could ensnare them at any moment. As they neared the grand staircase, Maria noticed something unusual. The door to the basement, usually locked tight, stood ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning them closer. "Oliver, wait here," Maria instructed, though her own voice lacked conviction. The soft whispers in the air wrapped around her thoughts, urging her to tread carefully. "What if it's down there?" His voice trembled with trepidation. "I won't let anything happen to you," she promised, though her chest tightened with doubt. Steeling herself, Maria creaked open the basement door, a gust of stale air rushing out, tinged with the scent of dampness and something else, something acrid. As she descended the stairs, she couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching her every move. Suddenly, she froze. There, against the flickering light of the overhead bulb, she spotted something else, something that turned her blood cold, an old, dusty mirror standing alone in the corner. But it was cracked, and in the shattered reflections, she caught the faint outline of a woman with hollow eyes, and with a sudden realization that gripped her core, Maria understood the chilling truth. This was not just about protecting Oliver, it was about uncovering a history that had long been hidden, and the shadows were only beginning to reveal their secrets. What was the connection to the woman in the mirror? And what dark revelation awaited them below? Maria's breath quickened as she stared at the mirror. The woman in the fragmented reflection stared back, a ghost of sorrow etched in her hollow cheeks. Was this the darkness that had crept into their lives? "Maria? What's the matter?" Oliver's voice broke through her trance, reminding her she wasn't alone. The deep bond between them fueled her courage. She needed to protect him, no matter what shadows lurked in the depths of their home. "Stay close, Oliver," she urged, pulling him gently toward her. The chill in the air grew heavier with each breath, an oppressive weight that settled over them like a shroud. She stepped closer to the mirror, compelled by an unseen force. The woman's face, a reflection of despair, haunted her. Who was she? As if sensing her thoughts, the bulb flickered violently, casting strange shadows that danced along the walls. Maria steadied herself, forcing herself to inspect the area. The mirror's surface seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of its own, drawing out ancient memories buried deep within her. She knelt down, feeling the coolness of the wooden floor beneath her palms. Is she trapped? Oliver's voice trembled, a mixture of fear and curiosity lacing his words. I don't know, Maria replied, a knot forming in her throat. She felt a sickening whirl of dread. Could the woman in the mirror be a warning? A victim? Or worse, a vengeful spirit? Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from behind them, vibrating through the walls. Maria's heart raced as she turned to see the door they had entered through slamming shut, plunging them into near darkness. Oliver! She shouted, her protective instincts flaring. Stay behind me. They faced the cracked door, which now seemed ominously sealed against them. Mama! Oliver cried out, his voice rising in panic. Shoo! Don't call for anyone, Oliver, not now, Maria insisted, desperation tightening her voice. In the depths of her heart, she knew that wherever they were and whatever was coming, this was a fight they had to face together. The vibrations beneath their feet shifted suddenly, as if the basement itself was alive. The mirror shimmered, reflecting ominous shapes in the cracked glass. Murmuring whispers began to fill the air, swirling around them like angry spirits, a cacophony of anguish mixed with heartbreak. The old wood creaked as a gust of wind howled through the cracks, sending chills crawling up Maria's spine. "Look!" Oliver pointed, eyes wide with terror. The woman in the mirror seemed to curl her fingers, as if beckoning them closer. "Oliver, don't!" Maria warned, but he stepped closer to the mirror, shadowed by the groans of the spirits around him. "What does she want?" he whispered, fear jagged in his voice. "I don't know," Maria breathed, instinctively reaching for him. Fear mingled with an intense urge to understand. What connection did she share with this woman? Every instinct roared at her to close her eyes, to turn away, but there was something compelling. A sense of urgency entwined with the spinning darkness. As Oliver stood frozen in awe, Maria felt the floor shift again, this time sending a jolt beneath her. The voices crescendoed, swelling into a piercing wail that cut through the air. She stumbled but caught herself on the edge of the mirror. "Oliver!" She shouted again, but the moment held a chilling stillness. Time felt suspended as the mirror began to vibrate, and the image of the woman stepped forward, her eyes blazing with an unknown intensity. With an unsettling crackle, the mirror shattered, sending shards flying in all directions. Maria felt a rush of air, colder than the basement's chill, a wave of malevolence washing over them. "Run!" Grabbing Oliver by the wrist, she yanked him into motion, desperate to escape the fragments of the shattered truth before it consumed them both. They raced toward the staircase, the noise of the glass crunching beneath their feet resounding like a war drum in her ears, but as they reached the top, she turned back, sensing something wasn't finished. Did the woman in the mirror hold the key to the truth, or was she yet another layer of deception? The answer loomed ahead, closer than she'd ever imagined, and it would shatter everything they understood. What other secrets lay within the dark corridors of their past? And was the worst yet to come? The door to the basement creaked ominously as Maria and Oliver crashed through, momentarily blinded by the bright light filtering in from the hallway. They stumbled to the top of the staircase, those racing moments in the dark leaving a shiver in their bones. The air felt electric, the static tingle of fear still clinging to them. "Did you see that?" Oliver gasped, eyes wide, his small body trembling against hers. Her heart ached at the sight of his fear. She wished desperately to shield him from it all, to shield him from the darkness she sensed lurking. "Yeah, I did," Maria whispered, needing to steady herself. "But we can't think about it now." She pulled him away, deeper into the safety of their home. But as she glanced over her shoulder, the basement door rattled violently behind them. Oliver flinched, and Maria squeezed his hand tighter. "Let us get to the living room," she urged, pulling him swiftly down the dimly lit hallway. The house felt even more constricted, as if the walls were bearing down on them. They reached the living room, Maria's skin prickling with unease. Every shadow looming in the corners felt alive, every creak of the floor echoing with the weight of the encounter they'd just left behind. She plopped Oliver onto the couch, its familiar comfort feeling foreign under the circumstances. "Stay here," she instructed firmly, her voice trembling slightly despite her resolve. She needed to understand. Above all else, she would uncover the mystery of the woman they had seen. "All alone?" Oliver asked, his voice quivering. "You're not alone," she reassured him. "I'll be right back." Maria turned and headed toward the kitchen, hoping the light of the moon would seep through the window, guiding her. Her heart raced with every step. The events in the basement spun in her mind, a whirlwind of echoes and reflections. The woman in the mirror was a part of her life, a piece of her inexplicably tethered to Oliver. As she approached the kitchen, the familiar sounds of their home were drowned out by a low, ominous hum that seemed to swell from nowhere. The hairs on her arms stood on end. She glanced toward the window as something shifted outside, a flicker of movement. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. Silence answered her, thick and suffocating, and for a moment, she considered retreating back to Oliver. But no. They needed answers. She stepped toward the window, pushing aside the curtain with trembling fingers, and what she saw stole her breath. There, in the reflection of the glass, stood the woman from the mirror. Maria whirled around, but there was nothing behind her. Just the empty kitchen, with shadows dancing under the shimmering light. Her heart pounded in her chest. "Are you still here?" she whispered, a chill racing down her spine. Behind her, a soft voice broke through the silence, revealing secrets tangled in despair. "Maria," it called, low and haunting. "Oliver!" she shouted, fear churning inside her, clenching her throat. She turned, rushing back to the living room, desperation roaring through her. "We have to go." The room was empty. Her heart dropped as she approached the couch, where Oliver had perched moments before. But the seat was now cold, abandoned. He was gone. "Oliver!" Maria cried, panic surging through her veins. Frantic, her eyes darted around the room. The living room felt like a void, each shadow swallowing her hope whole. "Where are you?" she screamed, her voice wailing in anguish, a melody of unraveling sanity. From the corner of her eye, she spotted a faint glimmer ascending through the dark hallway leading back to the basement. She took a breath, the air sharp with fear and determination. "Oliver!" she cried again, as she sprinted toward the light, feelings of dread swirling. Every instinct screamed at her that whatever was waiting in the basement wasn't finished with them yet. But would she find Oliver, or would she just awaken something darker? As Maria dashed down the hallway, her heart hammered against her chest like a warning drum, each beat reminding her of the darkness that was clawing at her sanity. The light was a beacon pulling her closer, yet every step toward it felt like stepping deeper into an abyss. "Oliver!" she cried, the desperation in her voice echoing off the walls. The glow flickered as she approached the basement door, casting grotesque shadows that danced mockingly. It was as if the house itself breathed heavily, sensing her fear and responding with malevolent whispers. Taking a deep breath, she reached for the doorknob, the metal cold against her palm. Could it be that he was down there, in the very place she had fought to leave just moments before? She hesitated, gnawing dread coiling in her gut. But the thought of Oliver alone in the dark was unbearable. With a resolve born of love and terror, she turned the knob, the door creaked open, and a rush of stale air enveloped her. She peered into the darkness, the basement now a gaping maw ready to swallow her whole. "Oliver!" she called one last time, her voice trembling as she stepped into the shadows. The light from the hallway flickered, casting eerie silhouettes as the door swung shut behind her. The sudden darkness pressed in, wrapping around her like a heavy cloak. She felt around, searching for the wall, grounding herself against its cool texture, then she heard it, a soft whimper, barely audible, filtered through the silence. "Oliver!" she whispered, moving toward the sound, her pulse quickening. Each step resounded with might, breaking the silence and stirring the dust that hung in the air. "Mom!" came a tiny, broken voice from the depths of the room. Relief washed over her like a wave, but anxiety mixed with it as she edged closer. The light sputtered from somewhere in the basement, illuminating a small patch of ground a few feet ahead, but it did little to ease her fear. In the dim glow, she spotted a shape huddled against the wall. As she moved closer, details came into focus, a small figure, familiar and achingly precious. "Oliver!" she gasped, kneeling beside him. He looked up at her, eyes wide with fright. "Mom!" she asked back, he stammered, trembling uncontrollably. "What do you mean?" Maria asked, panic reframing her understanding of reality. "Who's back?" "The woman," he whispered, pointing into the darkness beyond them. The air turned icy, the shadows shifting. "She wants me." In that instant, an oppressive weight descended, crushing Maria's chest. The shadows fluttered at the edges of the light like moths drawn to flame. "We need to go," she shouted, grasping Oliver's arm and pulling him to his feet. He stumbled as they moved, the two of them a ragged breath against the looming terror, but as they turned, the basement seemed to constrict, the walls closing in with a life of their own. The soft hum that had teased before now resonated through the air, louder and more commanding, echoing the whispers of the unknown. "Mom!" Oliver cried, his voice a desperate plea. The shadows thickened around them, and then came the voice again, powerful this time, more seductive than before. "Stay with me, Maria." Just a little longer. Maria stared into the depths where the voice emerged, her soul trembling with recognition. "No!" she shouted, clutching Oliver tighter, determined to break free, but the shadow of the woman loomed ever closer, her form taking shape out of the black. "Oliver, run!" she yelled, urging him toward the stairs. But her feet felt heavy, as if the space were binding her to the spot, an anchor of dread. When Oliver hesitated, she felt a surge of dread course through her. She had to save him. She could never let him fall to whatever darkness entangled them. "I'm right behind you," she gasped, giving him a desperate push toward the staircase, but just as he was about to flee, a cold hand grasped her shoulder, freezing her in place. The touch was heavy and chilling, unearthly. The voice spoke again, "Stay with me." In that moment, a horrifying realization struck Maria: the shadows weren't just taking Oliver, they were prepared to take her as well. "What do you want?" she shouted, terror spilling into her voice. The hush that followed was deafening, almost palpable. Just then, she felt Oliver's small hand slip from hers. "Mom!" he cried, and the darkness surged, a tide threatening to swallow them both. As their eyes locked, she knew, this battle was only beginning. Would she have the strength to confront not just the shadows, but also the truths they guarded? A chilling laugh echoed from the depths, sending them both into a gripping flight up the stairs, but deep down, Maria knew they were being hunted. The chase wouldn't end until she either confronted the truth or succumbed to the darkness lingering just out of sight. What awaited them at the top was a question that loomed over them, heavy with uncertainty. The door slammed shut behind them, a finality that echoed in the suffocating silence of the basement. With every frantic step, Maria could feel the air thicken, a dark presence swirling around her. She positioned herself between Oliver and the shadows, heart racing, eyes wide with fear. "Stay close," she urged, dragging him along as they staggered up the narrow staircase. The stairs creaked beneath their weight, each groan sounding like a warning. "Come on, baby, we can't let her catch us." Behind them, the oppressive darkness clawed at the edges of the light, relentless and hungry. "I'm scared, Mom," Oliver whimpered, trembling. "I know," she breathed out, her voice shaky but firm. "Just keep running." They reached the top of the stairs, but the door to the hallway was tightly shut. Maria threw her shoulder into it, but it refused to budge. A heavy thud echoed from the other side, an invisible force pushing back against her. "Open, damn it!" she shouted, desperation bubbling to the surface. The response was a shadowy figure forming behind her. The light flickered in alarm, and the temperature dropped, an unmistakable chill that turned her breath into mist. "Maria," the voice purred, seductive and knowing. "You can't escape me." In that moment, dread churned in her stomach. This wasn't just some spectral foe, it felt personal. She turned to face Oliver, who was wide-eyed and rooted to the spot, his small frame trembling like a leaf in the wind. "Oliver, listen," she snapped, trying to break the spell that had gripped him. "We have to find another way out." "Mom, I don't want to leave you," he cried, tears streaming down his cheeks that a pang of guilt washed over her. "You have to be brave for me. I promise I won't let her take me. Now, let us look for a way out." Just then, the basement lights flickered once more, illuminating a window high above a small potential escape. "There," Maria called, pointing. "We can climb up." Motivated, she huddled low and propelled herself into a crouch, reaching for Oliver's hand. They reached the window, but a thick layer of dust covered the glass, grime collecting in the corners. Maria stood on her tiptoes, desperation giving her strength. "Help me push it." She felt Oliver's small hands on her back, and together they heaved against the window. It creaked ominously, but then, with a burst of effort, it yielded. Light poured in, illuminating a small patch of floor. Maria pulled Oliver up, placing her hands on either side of his hips, hoisting him upwards. "Climb," she urged. And as he scrambled to clamber through, she felt the heavy tug of shadows drawing nearer. "Mom, wait!" Oliver called, sticking his head back through the opening. "Go! Now!" she barked, panic flooding her voice. "I'll be right behind you, I promise." He disappeared through the window, leaving Maria alone as the darkness closed in. Just as the last remnants of light began to slip away, she caught a glimpse of the woman's figure, distorted by the shadows, stretching her arms out toward her. The voice slithered into her mind. "You belong with me." Maria pressed a hand against the window frame, shaking from fear and a surge of adrenaline. With a fierce determination, she launched herself upwards, forcing her body through the opening just as the spectre's icy breath brushed against her neck. Coming down on the grass outside, Maria tumbled to the ground, gasping for air. She rolled over, panting, desperate for a moment of reprieve. The soft glow of moonlight illuminated Oliver's small, terrified face gazing at her from the window, and in that instant, she knew they hadn't escaped. This was only the beginning. "Mom, hurry!" he urged, eyes darting with terror as the shadows swirled behind her, trying to break through the fragile barrier of light. Maria felt fire in her veins as she scrambled to her feet. "Take my hand, Oliver. We need to run." But just as he reached for her, the woman's voice called out from the house, "You can't protect him forever, Maria. He is destined to be mine." And with that, the ground shook beneath them, sending both mother and son tumbling backward. The darkness surged forward with a wrathful howl, threatening to consume them both. As they struggled to rise, the chilling realization took hold. Some battles were fought in the light while others demanded they stand firm in the swirling dark. This was not merely a fight for survival, it was a fight for their souls. Together, they'd face what lay ahead, but would it be enough to keep the darkness at bay? What truth remained hidden from them in those shadowy depths? The ground felt alive beneath Maria and Oliver as they scrambled to regain their balance. Each tremor carried an ominous warning that made Maria's heart race faster. They had to move, had to get away from that sinister voice calling out from the darkness behind them. "Don't look back. Just run!" she screamed, feeling the weight of the shadows pressing in like thick fog. Oliver's little legs pounded against the grass, but Maria was quick to keep pace, grabbing his hand tightly, as if their connection would ward off the encroaching threat. They darted across the yard towards the towering hedge that bordered the property. The air was thick with tension, and with each step, Maria could hear the low growl of something unnatural behind them. It felt as though the night itself was alive, a living entity that breathed and sighed with hunger. "Where do we go, Mom?" Oliver gasped, his small face pale, the moonlight revealing the sheen of sweat on his brow. "We need to find a way to the street, to the neighbors. They'll help us." Maria panted, pulling Oliver closer as they made their way past the hedge. The world around them felt unreal, twisted under the weight of their plight. As they reached the edge of the hedge, a sudden wind picked up, sending a chill down Maria's spine. She stopped, feeling a presence hovering just behind her. "Hold on," she whispered to Oliver, gripping his hand tight. They stepped into the shadows of the thick brush, moving cautiously, their breaths hushed as they listened. "Do you think she is coming?" Oliver whispered, his voice quivering as he peered into the dark corners, afraid of what lay beneath the branches. "Don't think about that right now. Just stay with me," Maria choked out, her mind racing. But she could feel it, that debilitating dread creeping in again. It clawed at her sanity, whispering lies of despair and inevitability. From the other side of the hedge came a rattling noise, as if something was being dragged across the ground. Maria's heart lurched, and she pressed herself against the trunk of a thick tree. "Stay here," she commanded, crouching low. She scanned the perimeter, searching for an exit, a glimmer of hope that would lead them to safety, and then she saw it through the tangled branches, an orange glow flickering in the distance. "Oliver! Look!" she said, a surge of hope igniting in her chest. "That's a streetlight. We can make it." Without waiting for a reply, she moved again, pulling Oliver along with her. Each step felt heavier, burdened by the weight of fear. As they broke free from the hedge and appeared on the narrow pathway, Maria risked a glance back towards the house. The dark figure from the basement stood at the window, blackened fingers curled around the frame, and a chilling smile that made her stomach churn. "You can't escape me, I will always find you." The voice echoed in her mind, and dread wrapped around her heart like a vice. "Mom! Go!" Oliver cried, yanking at her arm, pulling her forward. They tore down the street, heartbeats racing in time with their footsteps, but Maria could feel the darkness chasing them, its breath hot against her neck. Suddenly, there was a noise. A scream pierced the night, sharp, agonizing. It sliced through her resolve. They stumbled, and Maria clasped Oliver's hand tighter, but he pulled back, looking over his shoulder with wide, terrified eyes. "Mom, what if she's hurting someone? We have to help." His innocent desperation crashed over her like waves of panic. Maria's heart was a battlefield of conflicting emotions, but she knew what was at stake. They couldn't risk it. "We can't. We have to keep moving, we need to find help." Yet as they raced into the night, the feeling deep inside her whispered of an undeniable truth: in this dark game, every soul lost mattered. They weren't protagonists of this tragedy, they were bait. With each footfall, Maria felt the tension escalate. She could sense that moment drawing nearer, the point they would either find redemption or be pulled into an abyss from which there was no escape. In the distance, the faint echo of laughter cut through the dark. "Mom, who is that?" Oliver asked, eyes wide with fear. Maria hesitated, sensing something looming over them, ready to strike. I don't know." And just then, the laughter morphed into a spine-chilling cackle that echoed through the night, drowning everything else out. What dark secrets were hidden behind those walls? Would they be enough to save her son, or would they seal their fate? The laughter faded, but not the dread that hung in the air. Maria's heart raced as they dashed along the street illuminated by the flickering streetlight. The glow cast eerie shadows that danced along the pavement, as if mocking their fear. "Keep your eyes forward, Oliver," she urged, pushing her voice through the thick silence that surrounded them. With every step, Maria could feel the ground beneath them, pulsating, alive with danger. The familiar sights of their neighborhood had twisted into a nightmare. Each home they passed seemed to watch, its windows dark and vacant like hollow eyes. In the distance, she could hear the faint sound of sirens, but the wail felt far removed, like a lifeline just out of reach. "Why are they taking so long?" Oliver whimpered, glancing around nervously. His small frame shook against her as he clutched her arm. "Maybe they don't hear us," Maria breathed, panic bubbling beneath her skin. Her mind raced through the possibilities. Where were their neighbors? Were they safe? Each fretful thought tangled with the one that demanded they keep moving, keep running. Then, out of the stillness, a soft, deliberate footfall echoed behind them. Maria froze. The air shifted, thickening like cut glass, sharp and cold. "We have to go," she urged, her voice a desperate whisper. She felt Oliver tighten his grip on her, fear radiating off him like heat. As they stumbled forward, Maria risked a glance back. The figure stood beyond the streetlight's reach, just outside the dim glow, watching them. A familiar silhouette with twisted features and that same insatiable grin. "You can't run forever," it called out, voice slithering like venom through the cool night air. "Mom! Run!" Oliver shouted, fear rupturing from his lips as he tugged her arm urgently. They sprinted down the street, desperation fueling their movements, but the laugh, oh, that laugh followed them, echoing through the stillness and wrapping around them like chains. With every step, Maria's breath came in ragged gasps, her lungs burning, her heart hammering against her chest. Just as they reached a corner intersection, a figure stepped into the light, a man shouting, "Hey! Are you okay?" His voice was filled with concern, drawing Maria's eye toward him. Was this the help they needed? But in an instant, the man froze, eyes widening as he took in the sight behind them. "What is that?" he whispered, taking a step back. The realization struck her like ice water. "Run!" she shouted again, pulling Oliver, pushing them both past the bewildered bystander. They needed to get to safety, to anyone who could stand against the darkness chasing them. Suddenly, Oliver twisted in her grip, pointing towards a cluster of houses. "Mom, the Bensons. They can help." "No. We have to keep moving," Maria insisted, fear crushing her resolve. What if that shadowy thing couldn't be stopped? What if it got them first? A thud echoed behind them, followed by a scraping sound that rang like nails on a chalkboard. Maria's instinct screamed at her to flee. Danger was closing in. They dashed toward the nearest house, a tall maze of bricks and ivy that seemed to promise protection. Just as she reached for the door, an icy wind surged around them, fingers of darkness clawing at the edges of her vision. But she didn't stop. She couldn't afford to think, only react. As they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them with a sickening thud, trapping them in haunting silence. The interior felt eerily still, shadows gathering in every corner, thick and heavy. "Mom, what if she finds us here?" Oliver's voice faltered, full of dread. Maria swallowed hard, barely holding herself together. "We'll figure it out," she whispered, but deep inside, anxiety turned to panic. The shadows felt alive, crawling closer, ready to pounce. As she looked around at the unfamiliar faces and framed photos lining the walls, Maria felt a chill run down her spine. Who lived here? Would they be allies, or were they merely more shadows hiding secrets of their own? A noise came from the back of the house, soft but persistent, rhythmic, as if something or someone was tapping against the floor, something that didn't belong in here. "What is that?" Oliver's voice was barely more than a whimper. Maria's blood ran cold. "I don't know," but the nagging truth pressed at her mind. Escape was a fleeting illusion. They may have run from one danger only to stumble into another. And with every second, the laughter clawed at the edges of her sanity. What awaited them behind the door in that dark hallway? Would the shadows engulf them once more, or would they find the light they so desperately sought? The tapping continued, an insistent rhythm that echoed through the heavy silence of the house. Maria stepped backward, pulling Oliver close as if he could shield her from whatever lurked beyond their immediate sight. Her heart felt like it would explode from the pressure of dread tightening around it. "Stay here," she whispered, forcing her voice to remain steady despite the tremor of fear beneath the surface. She had to know what was making that noise. Slowly, she shifted toward the dark hallway, the shadows stretching into the void like grasping fingers. "Mom, no." Oliver's eyes were wide, reflecting pure terror. He clutched her shirt. "What if it comes from there?" Maria turned to him, her mind racing. "I'll be right back. We need to know if we can stay here." Her resolve wavered, but she had no choice. With cautious steps, she crept into the hallway, her breath catching in her throat as the tapping grew louder, more frantic. It was almost as if the sound was aware of her. Each footfall felt heavier, the air thick with tension. What had they walked into? As she approached the source, she glanced into the dim light spilling from an open doorway. The tapping stopped abruptly, a silence so profound it was unnatural. "Hello?" she called, forcing the word through the lump in her throat. The darkness shifted, a lump forming at the edge of the doorway. Something moved. Maria squinted, heart racing, and then froze, the sensation of cold dread washing over her like ice water. A figure hunched over on the floor, their features obscured by shadow. A small sound escaped, a soft whimper. "Are you okay?" She stepped closer, her mind swirling with conflicting thoughts. Who was this? The figure turned slightly, revealing large, terrified eyes that glistened with unshed tears, and a ragged gasp pulled at Maria's heart. "I'm scared." Before she could reply, the shadows deepened, and the unmistakable laughter erupted from the hallway behind her, echoing like a sinister boast through the house. It sent shivers down her spine, a sound that craved chaos, like fire to dry wood. "Mom! Get away from it!" Oliver shouted, panic rising in his voice. "Wait!" Maria turned back, the figure still trembling on the floor. "Who are you?" "I am Lily," the girl said, her voice frail. I hid, but it finds you, it always finds you. Her gaze darted back toward the shadows, fear anchoring her to the spot. Maria's heart sank. Lily? Who finds you? What is going on? The laughter swelled, a wave of malevolence that seemed to seep into the very walls, causing the shadows to flicker and dance ominously. Mom! Oliver's terror crashed into her, raw and unyielding. We have to go. Time slowed as Maria faced the two terrified children, the choice hanging heavy in the air. She understood Oliver's fear. The darkness was closing in. But Lily needed help too. What had they stumbled into? Lily, listen to me, she said, determination hardening her voice. We're going to get out of here. Can you help us? Before Lily could respond, a sudden rush of wind slammed against the walls, rattling the framed pictures. Everything shook. Maria's instinct screamed for her to flee. Now! She shouted, grabbing Oliver's hand, but in the chaos, Lily's voice became a whispered plea. You can't escape. It's already too late. As they turned to run back the way they came, shadows surged at them like an angry wave, laughter mingling with a chorus of desperate cries. The rush of darkness swallowed the light, tangling around them like barbed wire. Don't look back. Maria cried, fear igniting her speed. They raced toward the door, the sound of suffocating laughter drowning them in its danger, but just before they could reach the safety of the exit, a soft voice echoed in the night, a voice that sent the blood running cold in their veins. Mom, where are you? Who was calling? And more importantly, who would answer? In an instant, the darkness thickened, and Maria realized something harrowing: they weren't alone at all. The true scope of danger was far greater than the shadow that chased them. What had they awakened? And would they ever be free of it? The ground roared beneath them, thundering in a chaotic dance as shadows clawed at the edges of reality. Maria and Oliver sprinted towards the door, the chilling laughter of the darkness spiraling around them like a suffocating noose. When they reached the doorway, the shadows surged forward, a blur of black intent. Mom! Oliver screamed, tugging at her hand, pure panic stamped on his small face as the shadows wrapped around their legs, pulling them back toward the writhing abyss. With fiery determination, Maria yanked her son closer. We can't stop now. Keep moving. She launched them both through the door, a final barrier against the encroaching blackness, but the shadows writhed and twisted, desperate to breach their escape. They stumbled into the cold night, a rush of air sweeping them back, as if the very world fought against them. The streetlight's weak glow offered a momentary refuge over the shadowy expanse of their neighborhood. The laughter, once omnipresent, grew faint behind them, as if the darkness momentarily receded. Mom, what happens now? Oliver's voice shook, his fear palpable. We find help. Maria gasped, urgency fueling every word. We have to get to the Bensons. Behind her, the darkness receded, but she felt its presence swelling, coiling with anger as it sought a way to reclaim what it had lost. They sprinted across the yard towards the Bensons' house, the silhouettes of trees stretching into sinister claws. She could feel Oliver's small hand trembling in hers, a constant reminder of what was at stake. Just as they neared the porch, the night's air thickened, heavy with unspoken dread. Do you hear that? Maria asked, halting mid-step. The tapping, the insistent knocking, fluttered through the air. It's coming from inside. Oliver froze, fear radiating from him. Mom, I don't want to go in there. A surge of compassion swelled in Maria's chest. She knelt to meet his frightened eyes, her heart aching at the vulnerability of his small form. Oliver, listen to me, she stated firmly. We faced the darkness before. Together. We can do it again. But we have to try. He nodded slowly, resignation washing over him like a cold tide. Okay, Mom. Together they stepped onto the porch, the floorboards creaking underfoot. Maria knocked on the door, the sound echoing through the stillness of the night. Moments passed like years in terror, but then she heard the sound of a latch turning. When the door creaked open, Mrs. Benson stood there, her expression shifting from surprise to horror. Maria. Oliver. What happened? Please. We need help. Maria breathed, tears of panic stinging her eyes. There's something dark, it's after us. Mrs. Benson's gaze hardened with a fierce determination, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Come in. She ushered them inside, and they hurried, fueled by adrenaline, as the shadows whispered at the edges of safety. Once in the cozy living room, Maria locked the door behind them. Strangely, it felt like a fortress against the encroaching threats, the walls lined with comforting memories. But as soon as silence fell, the shadows whispered again, clawing at the windows, longing to enter. What is going on? Mrs. Benson asked, worry knitting her brow. There's a woman, Oliver whispered, in the mirror. She wants to take us. His voice trailed off, emotions crushing beneath the weight of truth. That's how it starts, Mrs. Benson whispered, eyes flaring with recognition. It's drawn to you, beloved, because of fear and pain. It feeds on doubt. Maria's stomach dropped. What do we do? How do we fight it? They are lies, Maria. Only the truth can hurt it. Mrs. Benson's voice held a steady strength that sparked hope, igniting colors in the shadowed corners. Then we'll face the truth together, Maria vowed, her heart bolstered with newfound purpose. We'll confront whatever is haunting us. Mrs. Benson took a deep breath, the air thick with weighty resolve. Right now, we must focus on blocking its arrival. They scoured the house, gathering items imbued with energy, truths etched in family stories, and connections forged through love. As they worked, the shadows twitched at the fringes, rattling against the windows, as if sensing a desperate resolve. They circled the living room, marking boundaries with salt and candles. With each flickering flame, the dark figure's threatening presence shrunk farther away. This is for you, Mrs. Benson said softly, glancing at Oliver. You are stronger than it thinks. Standing at the ready, Maria felt the ache in her heart transform into unyielding strength. The advancements of the shadows pricked at her resolve, but anchored by love, she shrugged off the chill. For Oliver, and for the forgotten souls that longed for release, they stood united. Let's do this. She shouted, her voice ringing out like a battle cry. Together. Echoed Oliver's courageous spirit, buoyed by the protective aura surrounding them. The shadows twisted under the weight of their collective light, shrieking in madness, while Maria focused all her love, hope, and courage into a sphere ignited with truth. As she opened her eyes, the light burst forth, blazing back the darkness. And when the echoes of laughter retreated behind the door, a heavy, suffocating silence fell. Sure enough, they hadn't run away from anything, they had reclaimed their home. Mama? Whispered Oliver, his small frame trembling against her. It's okay, my love, she replied, wrapping him in a hug. The shadows had been pushed back, not vanquished but contained, waiting for another opportunity. But for now, they were safe for now. That night, under the glow of embers dancing in the fireplace, Maria and Oliver sat together, the weight of victory still carrying in their hearts. As dawn threatened to break, family's hard-won secrets sealed in love, they knew they could face whatever came next. And no matter how dark the night, love would always pierce through. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss what happens next. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. The journey continues, and only true fans understand how important your support is.